You're listening to Sapphire FM at 97.5 with Layal
and Chris.
Today we are at the Cobargo Folk Festival, and here with us now is Kirsty Bromley, who is from the UK. She has been in choirs and musical ensembles from a very early age, and much of her formative years involved immersion in the brass band tradition.
In February 2015, she had given up her full-time job to take up music as a profession.
Kirsty is a young contemporary folk singer who draws upon a wide range of traditional music. She has a most disarmingly transparent voice, but also the uncanny and beautiful knack of drawing attention to the song rather than the messenger, by the manner in which she employs it.
Her warm, expressive voice is distinctive and memorable. Kirsty is currently touring her debut album, Time Ashore, which features original singles as well as folk gems, and continues to perform at festivals and folk clubs around the UK and overseas in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, France and many more, but has travelled the world teaching.
So how are you today, Kirsty?
Oh, good, thanks. Yeah, not so bad.
Have you played Cobargo Folk Festival before? Or?
Oh, as it happens, yes, this is my first time as a booked singer, but last year I did a 5-week tour around Australia with Stephen Taverner, who's of the Spooky Men's Chorale. We just happened to pop in on Cobargo. We were doing it along the coast. So we popped in just for the day, and Stephen and I did some stuff on the Blackboard concert. And yeah, this year I got asked to come back to sing, which is really good.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we can get an idea of how diverse you are. What are 2 completely different songs you have written?
I'm not much. I mean, I sang at the songwriters concert last night, but I wouldn't actually say I was a songwriter. I'm a singer, and yeah, I guess I sing traditional songs and songs other people write, and I've attempted a couple myself, but it's just whatever kind of relates to me at that time. So there's one song I wrote when I was 18, and that's about flying the nest, and it's about a bird actually that's on a cliff that's 15 miles high, which after jumping out of an airplane I realised 50 miles is ridiculously high. But yeah, and it's about, you know, is it worth taking a risk in life, regardless of what the outcome is, or to stay safe somewhere else? Sorry. Yeah, and then there's another song that I've written which is about the relationship between a mother and her child, which is also about what it's like, the idea of having a mum and the realisation of her not actually being around. And then, yeah, I guess... And then the other one is about singing and how powerful the voice is. Yeah. So there's kind of mixed, but mainly it's to the traditional songs. So I sing like traditional ballads about murder and death and babies and, you know, ghosts coming back and ripping a man to shreds, you know, that kind of thing. And then so it's pretty nice. And then I'll sing a song about like how good, you know, it is just to be alive and the importance of today and all that brings. And then I'll sing something about just being on the road or people, or just a whole mix, and a couple of political songs.
So what message would you like to portray to your audience the most?
Good question. I guess just that, you know, just the most that I've learnt about history and politics is actually through song and music. And I think that I sing songs that I feel like I can relate to and make a difference to my everyday. And I think I want to sing songs that other people can relate to, and maybe that will inspire them, or that'll just make their day feel a little bit better. And most of my songs are chorus songs, and that's the main thing, is I want people to join in. I want people to sing, and I want people to realise the power that a voice has, like just singing with all those people. Yeah, I don't sing with any instruments, so it's purely just the voice, and how people are so scared of that. But actually it's one of the best things, I think.
So hecklers and like stuff going wrong in your show, how have you been able to overcome stuff like that?
I love hecklers. I encourage hecklers. Yeah, I just had a great gig. I just toured New Zealand for 3 months, and my last gig was at the Bunker in Auckland. And the guy was drinking like pints of whiskey basically throughout the whole gig, and he was just heckling me all the time. And I had to think about everything because he managed to turn it all into rude comments, like whatever I said. So I just had to be on my toes the whole time, and the audience kind of interact with the audience at the same time. So it just kept me on my toes, and I loved it actually. He was great fun and so cheeky, and the audience were great. And they know him, like he's a regular, so they were just like, oh, it's just Roger.
You got any performances that you're just really proud of doing, or just had the most fun doing and really memorable?
Actually, yeah, that one that I did just in New Zealand last week, because I won the Fred Jordan competition, which is a traditional song contest in England, 5 years ago, and that encouraged me to record my first recording, which is an EP. And it was because of a guy called Fred who passed away, and he left this kind of memory of singing unaccompanied and singing your own songs and singing traditional songs. And he died, and he had these boots. No one knew, his friends and his family didn't know that he was a singer. And this guy, Roger, we used to work with him, and even he didn't know. He worked with him for 5 years and never knew he was a singer. And then at that gig in the bunker, he had Fred Jordan's boots from England. So the guy who was the reason I started to sing without ever knowing him, and these prestigious boots that exist and live in New Zealand, were at my gig, which was the anniversary of my first year of being a singer for nothing but singing for a whole year. That was really important to me, and Roger was really teary in introducing me for the evening, and I was really teary in singing. And yeah, just things like that, how life creates a full circle and that things are so unpredictable, and meeting people that you've never met and living your life in a different way from someone who you've never even met anyway. Like, Fred had such an impact on my life, and that he was dead before I even knew he existed. Yeah, so that was a good gig.
Yeah.
So you have had many achievements, but what musical achievement would you say you're most proud of?
Oh, most proud of? I'm really proud of my album.
Yeah.
I'm super proud of my album. I did a fundraiser to get it going, and just having the support of people who wanted it to happen, and not just for myself, but to do it for other people and for other people to be involved. Like creating it, I did it all myself and organised all the musicians, paid for everything, and just spent a whole year kind of giving it all that I had. And then touring it, I've been touring it for 6-9 months now.
Yeah.
And it's brought me here, it's brought me to New Zealand. I did an amazing tour with the Spooky Men in the UK. I had 1,200 people at my album launch.
Yeah.
That was quite exceptional.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah.
So what other musicians would you say influence you, or is there any other musicians you would like to collaborate with in the future?
Nancy Kerr.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's coming over to Oz next month. I've done a lot of work with them. I've looked after their children, and she's just an incredible human. She writes songs while doing the washing up, looking after 2 children, having a husband, doing jobs, gigging all over the world. She's just been to America, she's coming over to Oz, and yet she just gets everything done.
Yeah.
I just think her music is really inspiring.
Yeah.
And her songwriting.
A big thing nowadays with a lot of mainstream music is image. A lot of musicians have to have a really nice image. Do you reckon image is important at all?
Kind of is. I think if someone's paying to see you, and also if they're giving you your time, I think time is one of the most precious things someone can give to you, and I think you have to really respect that. And so if someone's giving you their time and their money, and you look like you've been dragged through a hedge, I think that's not really being very appreciative of that. And also it's like a trademark as well. So I guess one of mine would be that I don't wear shoes, and I always wear dresses, and often they're quite flowery or something, but I don't actually brush my hair, so it's kind of a balance. Don't bother to brush my hair, but I'll always make sure that I'm wearing something that kind of, and on this album tour actually I've been wearing I bought a dress specifically, and that's kind of been the dress I've been gigging in, which I'm not actually wearing today because it needs ironing.
So, what do you like most about the music industry and how it's changed over the years and what it's like nowadays? What do you think you like most about that?
I guess it's different. I'm not part of the grand music industry. I'm just part of a really beautiful small folk community that travels around. And that's going through stages. Like there was the huge folk revival in England in the 70s, and kind of had this massive lull where all the pubs and all the clubs were closing down, and now I think it's really come back quite strong. There's lots of young folk artists coming out of the UK, and as far as I'm aware as well, it seems like Australia's thriving and New Zealand's doing pretty well for itself. But it's a lot more accessible. You know, it was really hard in them days to get a record deal or to record music. Yeah, things weren't so accessible before, and now it's really easy to, you can record your own music on your laptop, and you can upload it yourself onto iTunes, and you can listen to music straight away. You can get it online without even having to pay, and I know that some people would work all week just to save up for their favourite record and go to the record shop, and that would be their thing, whereas now it's at the end of our fingertips. And I think that's also made a difference in how people produce their music. And in order to be something else, you have to really, people are having to think of really creative ideas and how they can produce their music, how they can market it, how they can put it out there, because it's so accessible now, and people just naturally want more. I think it's kind of easier and harder all at the same time.
What do you dislike about the music industry, and is there anything you'd like to change about it?
Sometimes it's not what you're good at, but maybe who you know.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's hard in that it isn't based purely on talent, but that, you know, you could be an amazing singer and you can work in a coffee shop and no one knows that you are because you don't know the right people to make it happen.
Yeah.
And then there could be someone who's awful, but they just know the right people.
Yeah.
I believe that everyone can sing, but still, you know, there's people who are just really good business people.
Yeah.
It's not always about just being creative, but you have to have a business head on, and that's something I really struggle with because I work for myself.
Yeah.
Do it all. I have to learn all the songs, write all the songs, market myself, organise all the gigs. And when you send out 100 emails and you get one reply, you know, it's really soul destroying.
Yeah.
But you just have to go out there, and I basically just travel around and go to gigs and perform. I spent years performing for free or just doing open mic stuff until I got there. And I think that's sometimes just being heard and getting gigs that were paid is really hard to do.
So what are some big challenges that you faced as a musician when starting out or even now?
I guess making sure, getting gigs is really challenging because you have to figure it all out and you have to just trawl through emails and you have to sell yourself in a way, and I'm not very good at that. I used to email people at the very beginning and be like, hey, I'm really sorry for bothering you. I'm sorry I'm sending you this email. I'm sorry that you have to listen to this. Like, I'm sorry if you think it's crap. Like, you know, and now I've become a bit better at that. But yeah, I'm just traveling and making arrangements, trying to get bands together. You know, I've just released an album and toured it in New Zealand, England and Australia within a year. Done all of that myself. That is just a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
Do you have any other plans for music in the future?
Yeah, my plan is to live between the 3 countries equally in a year. So 4 months here, 4 months in New Zealand and 4 months in England. And I'd like to write a lot more songs. I'd like to learn a lot more about my tradition. I'd like to incorporate... My idea is that I want to work with schools and do a whole array of performances with that. So get a songwriter, storyteller, a performer, a dancer, a craftsperson, like a stage design, and actually get the children to produce a performance in all the different aspects of folk and their culture and tradition mixed from England and where they live.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I really would like to do. And so my plan is just to do as much music as I can and make enough contacts that eventually I can get to that point.
Yeah.
Sounds nice. What advice do you have? Obviously you're very in with the younger musicians trying to start out. What advice would you give them for trying to get out there and trying to get a name for themselves?
Music is personal preference. So when someone says to you, you can't sing or you can't perform or you're not good enough, just ignore them. Because they're just one person, and I know that's so hard to do, but that's just them. It's not everybody. Their voice isn't everybody's voice. And I think that, you know, you're always capable of anything as long as you're open to the possibilities. So just keep going and put yourself out there and take the rejections and learn from them. And just, you know, I've always sang. I've never always been any good. And at some point when I was early 20s, that kind of something changed. I've listened to old recordings of me singing, oh my God, it was awful. But, you know, I just kept at it, and, you know, you have to go to places and just always be willing to, like, take opportunities and just put yourself into those places to be seen and heard, and just go for it. If it's your dream, go for it. And if anyone says anything different, just tell them to shut up.
So where can people follow you online and find out about your next performances?
I have a website, www.kirstybromley.com, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, which I don't go on at all because I'm a bit useless at Twitter, but I'm on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. Yeah, pretty much just put my name in, loads of stuff come up. And I'm touring Australia until the 26th of April, so there's some tour dates I just put up online.
Awesome.
And if you want to come to England, I'll be touring England as well, but yeah, plan to come back.
Well, it's been great talking to you, and yeah, it was really nice to meet you.
Oh, you too. It's good.